Alright guys, TacticalRab here, and today I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The first weekend of Major 3 qualifiers is over. 3 interesting results to dive into today, but also wanted to talk about in more detail the snaking drama. Earlier today we talked about the cheating stuff, but snaking is arguably there or thereabouts anyway, and it seems that many of the pro players are reaching a bit of a breaking point on this particular issue. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. Let's dive straight into things. Of course, the final series of the day we shall certainly get to is FaZe versus Thieves. Kind of crazy to think between Octane and Sasha how they have pretty similar records in terms of championships, finals, careers, event highest, KD, stuff like this. But Sasha 19-9 against Octane all time and 8-0 in the CDL. Quite the record. We'll see if he can maintain that in a couple of minutes time. Firstly though, the New York Subliners versus the Florida Mutineers. So Florida, look, they have a hard run at their first 2 matches with this new team. They played FaZe, got bodied by them, then they played New York, of course the 2 champions from both respective majors so far this season. They got bodied by FaZe. Map 1 was close, rest of the series wasn't. Honestly, the same story here against the New York Subliners. I thought possibly Florida would take a map in this series. They nearly took map 1, in fairness, kind of threw it away towards the end, or New York Subliners just clutched up when necessary to win the game on hardpoint. Game 2, this is the thing with Florida, right? The decision they made to get rid of, especially Major Maniac, you know that Maniac is going to give you some advantage in the search and destroy department, right? He might not be great in respawn, but he is going to put him in a game 5 situation. He is going to be able to help you win it, and also even getting to a game 5 seems to be a massive struggle for this new Florida Mutineers team. This, to me, against FaZe, whatever, excusable. This series, I thought they had to at least take 1 map just to show they've got something in the tank. Just like, okay, getting back-to-back 3-0'd in your first series as a team is never ideal, especially you're playing online. Subliners, you know, all their game modes, their hardpoint doesn't, okay, their search and destroy looks better now since the major. Their hardpoint maybe looks a bit weaker. Like, surely Mutineers should have won 1 map in this series. And yeah, difficult to say. I do still think this change could work for them, and I think it was a good idea trying what they did. But at the end of the day, Florida have always been a team that they thrive off a game 5 win. That's how they do their damage in the CDL. That's how it's always been for them, to be honest, apart from, of course, the Modern Warfare days when they actually had some talent on their team, or like seriously top level CDL talent, right? But now their search and destroy isn't quite there anymore. Hydra wins this 1 versus 2 in the very first round. That set the tone, I thought. I mean, look at this. He even nods his head here in the bedroom before he jumps out and gets the kill on Havoc. Like, that is some serious disrespect right there. And it worked out in Hydra's favor. Man, this guy, I mean, I feel like I say it every time we talk about the subliners. Like, you know, it's not like people forgot about Hydra, but he was playing ungodly in the first major. And then because they had a bad major too, everyone's talking, okay, Dashy, Scrappy, these other players, aBeZy for a good reason, of course, and others. But Hydra is still here, making a very good case that he should be the MVP of this entire season because he's been out of control. And yeah, Florida can't win a search and destroy either nowadays, which obviously isn't ideal, especially against a team like the Subliners that aren't even that good in that mode. So yeah, what's the thing for Florida? What are they going to do going forwards? The tricky thing is for Florida, right, they're already not looking good for the World Championship qualification. They're already quite a few points behind. This was a big change they made. They kept only 1 man on the team in Havoc, made all the other changes. But I'm just quite surprised how this has turned out. I'm not surprised that Fellow individually is not dropping crazy numbers. Like, he wasn't brought in here to drop a 1.1 or anything, but Brack was at a pretty good level, dropping some decent damage in series. That's disappeared now over the last couple of days. Havoc, you know, where's he been? Capsule as well. Okay, he's got a lot of engagements, most damage on the team. I think Capsule's probably doing his best, but the other players in Brack and Havoc that are now come back, they haven't really clicked yet. And okay, yes, they're playing a very good New York team. They played a very good FaZe team just yesterday, but I feel like they should have at least won a single map in this series, right, just to give them some confidence. So yeah, tough for the Mutineers. And I still think that what they've tried here in terms of their roster change is the correct move. I just think that in terms of the way that they've normally put up points, like at the start of the season I said, Florida have a bad team at the start of the year, but they were going to put more points up than a London or, you know, even a Vegas or teams in that category because they will win you game 5s. And Florida now have decided, all right, you know, we might be okay at search, but we're more about trying to challenge in the respawns, but they just don't have the talent to challenge in the respawns. So that's where they run into difficulties, right? Like, on paper, their team got better, but in terms of how they actually win series, like, they're going to almost win less series now, it feels, with this kind of changes they've made, and they certainly don't seem even competitive right now. So we'll see what happens to them next week, but food for thought for sure in that camp. And yeah, Subliners being as vibey as ever after their series victory. Let's talk then about the first series that Hicksy was in, the Toronto Ultra, of course. Standy got dropped, lots of drama about that. Hicksy gets his chance, and this is an interesting interesting series. I wonder what you guys think about this in the comments below, because yes, they dominated this series in terms of the slaying. Scrappy, Insight had great numbers, but you know, from an SMG perspective, there still is, to me, many questions to be answered in terms of whether Hicksy can be the guy they really need him to be. Scrappy, I mean, look, at the end of the day, they're playing Vegas. I know that a lot of people thought Vegas might win this in 5, but I think Vegas got not lucky to beat Thieves. They earned the victory, but I didn't think that was necessarily replicable. Obviously, 2real played great in that series. Wasn't really the case in this one. I just wanted to say, look at all the snaking, right? Hotel is arguably just, I mean, it's painful to watch. I'm sure it's painful to play as well at times, but how are you meant to break this hardpoint when everyone's snaking it? Like, how are you meant to even watch this at times? I know the observers deliberately do this just to show how ridiculous it is, and we'll see another example in the control here in a second. But yeah, this is just, I mean, it's outrageous the amount of snaking you see nowadays. And Claven makes a good point in a second here. They're like, basically these hills are unbreakable. The way that it's played, you can't break them because the guy setting up behind the head glitch has a huge advantage because he can snake again and again. There's no like snaking cooldown. Like in CSGO, for example, if you try and do this and crouch and stand up again and again, like your body will get tired and you'll like be able to stop doing it so quickly, basically. Not the thing in Call of Duty, unfortunately. Toronto, though, kind of dominate the game 1. Game 2, Scrappy goes huge as well in this round to secure this particular one. Gets this kill on Temp and the defuse comes through for his teammate, but it was the earlier kills that really made the difference here. So, I mean, people are going to say Scrappy's just like a noob slayer or whatever, right? Against the lower tier teams, he's going to pop off and maybe not against the top tier teams. That's maybe an interesting accusation, but it was Clayster, the OG, who was doing it all in this control to take them to a round 5. Clay made a phenomenal play here in the round 4 to get them their offense victory. Take it to round 5. Ultra, though, win it anyway. So Ultra looked on the slaying department like the better team. They outslayed them, but it was still a relatively close in terms of the respawns. Vegas won the search and destroy as well. Clutch up in an impressive round 11, so that was nice to see. Clay was doing well here to take it to a round 5. Didn't go their way, though. I also just wanted to share this here. So that wasn't, this isn't in the kitchen. This is on this part of the map here in the restaurant type thing. And I mean, just watch this. Like Clay, TJ, Temp, they're up and down. It's snakes in it, you know, snakes in the plane or whatever, just all over the shop. And that helped them win that particular round. I mean, it's just outrageous to see. So frustrating. And I know that fans are getting annoyed about it. I know the players are getting annoyed about it. And even as Nameless tweets out here, you can do it to the entire league right now. And even Nameless replies like, damn, Slasher, this has become so rampant. It really is just unreal scenes now, because Slasher was making the point last night that like, look, these guys no integrity anymore. It's got to a point where, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, right, like Cellium pretty much started this. So it's obviously Slasher could criticize it to a certain degree, but it's got to this point where it's not you can do it too. It's now hashtag whatever it takes is what Slasher says. But this is what happens when you don't put a stop to something right away. Now it's whatever it takes. So we'll see if they can actually shut this down. But I know that Clayster was making a point on this yesterday. I didn't bring this tweet up, but this was the clip from Scraps against Boston that won them now at 4. And Scraps makes a nice play, up and down, gets the kill, you know, bounces up and down, gets the kill. Nice play, whatever, they won the game. But as Clay says, can we get this fixed? Because at the end of the day, it's killing the gameplay loop. Devs definitely didn't intend some hills to be unbreakable, and that's the thing, is he says robbing us of insane endings. They could be great endings to certain games if the hills are actually breakable, but you know, you see stuff like that and you realize that actually breaking into the hardpoint is just not going to happen with the way these players are abusing the mechanics, and it makes the game worse to play and to watch, and not what the developers intended, but what the pros are going to do, unfortunately. This series, though, ended in 4. Vegas Legion go down to the Los Angeles Thieves, and even Prolute tweets this out, right, yeah, I don't beef with, etc, etc. You know how it goes. Thought it was pretty entertaining, to be honest. And Hicksy did the interview, Scrubby came in the background. So, I mean, look, we'll look at the numbers here just to see what you guys think about this series. At the end of the day, Vegas, not that impressive. 2real kind of back to where you might expect him to be. Maybe he had a great first series. Here he's got a 0.84. Here TJ's got a 0.87. So we'll see over time if they can level up. Temp and Clay doing about what was expected. Clay the most damage on his team again. But yeah, most damage in the lobby goes to CleanX. Definitely the Hicksy CleanX duo is impactful. Whether they were impactful enough in the slaying compared to the other SMG duos in the league compared to what they need to be, because without like a real slayer SMG, Scrappy isn't going to drop 81 every series with a 1.4 and Insight's going to have a 1.3. That's not going to happen every series, and when it doesn't, is the SMG duo going to be there? I'm still not quite sold on this change as yet. And a pretty surprising result, I would say, in the final series of the day, the Thieves versus the Atlanta FaZe, a rematch, of course, of the Major 2 Grand Final, where FaZe won in a pretty close fashion. 4-2 it was in the end back then. Thieves made the crazy losers bracket run, but Thieves, of course, just yesterday lost to Las Vegas Legion. So what is going on in the CDL? Thieves such a strange team. That's sometimes how it goes online, but I do do think this honestly maybe says more about FaZe than it does about the Thieves right now. So, and I don't understand, every time they go to a watch with the Thieves, you can see their face cams, Kenny is always laughing about something. I don't know what they're always laughing about, but it must be just hilarious what's going on in that camp. And I mean, maybe they just preempted the victory. Octane finally takes down Slasher, as we're going to see. But yeah, game one, I honestly thought here that FaZe got some pretty good maps for them. This has been a great map for them, Mercado Hardpoint. Game two as well was a great map for them as well. So I'm surprised they lost this series 3-1. Looking at the map set, I would have thought this had at least a game 5 on it. But no, FaZe go down in 4. They lose game 1 pretty comfortably in the end. Thieves, like, their coordination when they're on point is so good. We know their comms are unbelievable. We know the ceiling of what this roster is. We saw it last year. We saw it even at Major 2 when they made that crazy run to the finals. And they won this 250-172. Pretty comfortable, honestly. And again, the slaying wasn't massively in Thieves' favor. But the actual playing of the objective was definitely in Thieves' favor. And this to me is what's interesting about FaZe. They won Major 2, don't get me wrong, great result for FaZe, but they weren't even that good in hardpoint. Their control was good, but their hardpoint wasn't anything special at Major 2. It was them going undefeated in Search and Destroy at that event. That's what won them the tournament. It wasn't their respawn gameplay. Their hardpoint hasn't been great even this entire season, to be honest. Kind of surprising as to why, given the talent on their team, but it was the same story here. Of course, even yesterday against Florida, they almost lost that game 1 as well. So they lose this one pretty comfortably. Then Drazah drops an 0-7 bomb with the Search and Destroy. So FaZe's search is still disgusting. Cellium pulled out a couple of trick spots as well, which I was kind of surprised they used in this situation. But I mean, yeah, their LSE search is just unbelievable. Slasher and co, they played that map so well. Drazah could do nothing, 1-1, but a quick regain, and it actually was 2-0 in the control for Thieves. Went game 5, or went round 5 in the control, but Drazah turned up. Drazah's actually on this list as well of the first bloods, or total first bloods of the season. aBeZy is dominating this stat line with 73. That is outrageous. But yes, this goes game 5, or round 5 in the control. FaZe had a great start to this final round actually, but Drazah was going mega. Like, this guy is really, I don't know if he's still underrated. I still feel like Drazah's a bit underrated. I think we always say this for quite some time, that Drazah's a bit underrated, but I still kind of think it's true. Maybe Envoy's a bit underrated as well for his performance so far this year. Did a trademark Envoy flank as well to close out this game. And then game 4, honestly, wasn't particularly close. Thieves, again, from early doors, felt like they had the advantage on this one. Embassy hardpoint. Another map where FaZe have been pretty good, but they go down here again relatively easily. So, look, FaZe at the end of the day, they usually go like 3-2 or something in their qualifiers, and they'll get through to the major. Thieves lately have gone 2-3 in a lot of their set of qualifiers, and are qualified in the winners for the major anyway. So, you know, in the terms of consequences, it's not massive, but it's cool to see Thieves get revenge for their loss at the major. I'm sure that's what they're feeling as well, because they certainly had a lot of hype during this series, and for good reason. And FaZe definitely have to think about their hardpoint, because, you know, the way they play around the hills, all this stuff, their search is so good, but their search isn't going to remain at 100% win rate, and on, they were like a 9 streak at the moment, which is, you know, only beaten by Slashers and Los Angeles Guerrillas 10 streak they did last year with LAG. So, you know, that's going to come to an end. They're going to get down to reality and Search and Destroy at some point, and when that does happen, if their hardpoint doesn't improve, FaZe, I think, are in some trouble. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.